All right, today is Monday, February the 1st. Deer season is officially over, and we can officially move on to, on the podcast at least, we can move on to a topic that we have been dancing all around moving towards for, I don't know, Jordan, like the past month, 2 months?
Been thinking about it a lot longer than that.
Last year. And if it sounds, I'm sure the audio should sound fine, but it's going to sound a little bit different. Like you're probably listening to it going, if it sounds different, it's because me and Jordan are not sitting across, looking at each other at the camp or in the office with the recording gear. We're having to do this via Zoom, just because, full honesty, I'm having to quarantine myself for the next. Was it like 14 days?
Yeah, and I am too, at least until I get a test results back.
Yeah. Well, your boy tested positive this morning, so I'm going to be holed up in a hole until I get over it.
Yay.
Yay. I guess it could be worse, could be.
Better now than March the 15th.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's funny to me that I got diagnosed with it the day after deer season ended.
Yeah.
Like I've talked to similar people that have had this, that got COVID, had a similar deal. I mean, I got up and was feeling perfectly normal, was getting ready to come into the office, and I was making a pot of coffee, and I poured the cup, and I took a sip of it, and I realized I could not smell the coffee at all. And I was like, that's not a good sign. So I went and scheduled a test, come back positive. So now I'm holed up in here and will be for the foreseeable future until I get over it. But
have you noticed any difference today, like as the day went on, as far as your smell?
No. I mean, it will. Like, it was – like I was telling you this morning, when I first did it, I was like, I can't smell the coffee. Then I was like, kind of freaking myself out. I was like, do I have it? Do I not? And if I stuck my nose in that coffee cup and like inhaled in, like breathed in through my nose as much as I could barely get like a weak whiff of it, So it wasn't like completely gone, but I was like, okay, maybe I don't have it. But then I was just talking to myself. I was like, I just need to go find out, before I go walking up into the office. And because I literally had no other symptoms. And when they tested me, I didn't have a fever. I can still taste. Like I ate, I was eating lunch here just what time, I don't know, whatever time it is now. Whenever lunchtime was, I was eating lunch. I can taste everything fine. Just can't smell. It's weird.
Huh.
And it's still about the same because I was still, if there's something I can smell it and I can barely, it's just like barely get a whiff of it, but mostly it's pretty much gone.
Strange.
Yeah. But on the COVID calendar, I should have this thing whooped by end of next week. And then, like I said, then dodge it all through turkey season, and we'll call it gravy.
Yeah.
That's the plan anyway. So, man, the thing, enough COVID talk. I ain't studying enough COVID. We have been, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, I put out that poll if it was time to start talking turkeys yet. And a lot of folks, the vast majority of folks wanted to start talking about turkeys 2 weeks ago, but it just wasn't time yet. But deer season is over. And now what this does is this frees us up from not having to talk about deer anymore. And I know you and I are the same way in this. We never really stopped thinking about turkey hunting. But as far as talking about it on this podcast and talking about it around other people, you hit a point where like, all right, now no one can give us any crap about talking about it because it's what's coming up next. Like we had this little lull period in February, and then it's go time.
Well, I was thinking back last fall, we were planting food plots, at kudzu. Yeah. I mean, we're planting food plots to deer hunt on. at the same time, every time we stop and talk, we're like, you realize we're going to probably shoot a turkey right here next spring.
Yeah, I remember one food plot particularly. I'm like a couple times, me and you would hit that remark. We'd either be like, "Turkey's going to die right here," or we'd be in the food plot, be like, "That'd be a good tree to sit on right there."
Yeah, we need to break daylight right here one morning.
That's a perfect tree to sit on.
So
That's true.
This is like February till like March is like, for me it's like I get more excited right now than I do actually during turkey season, because once it starts, it's like you're 100% focused on the objective, and right now
you're in the game. Yeah,
you're thinking all the different scenarios that could happen and what happened last year and what you could learn from the mistakes you made, and man, thinking about on the good hunts. And I really, man, that's just the way I'm wired. I think about all the ones that went wrong and how we can fix them this year, you know?
dude, look, I already thought about, because I mean, think about just, I mean, because it's funny, because I was thinking today, you know, I knew we were gonna do the first turkey podcast today. I was thinking about subjects to talk about, and you know, just rabbit holes we could chase, because you know, especially, I mean, if you're talking to somebody, whether it's you and me talking or two other guys talking that are, you know, true obsessed turkey hunters in every sense of the word, you don't run out of stuff to talk to. But I kind of, you know, I like to try to subjugate so as I can, you know, make sure we talk about valuable stuff. And I was thinking about the same thing. I was like, all right, what did I do last year where I just royally screwed up? What can I improve on? And you probably, if you haven't thought about it already, you'll remember it as soon as I'm talking about it. Do you remember like the first hunt, not the one where I was videoing you, but do you remember when like me and you went to my place when I blew that turkey off the limb?
Yeah.
That was I was that was what I was, my first thing that came to my mind. I was like, all right, where did I royally screw up, and things that I can improve on? And that was obviously a very big one.
That's one of those scenarios. Don't ever feel safe. Don't ever feel safe where you're at on the property.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I've had it ever since I can remember starting turkey hunting. I have a bad habit of thinking a turkey into where he's going to be. And what I mean by that is when I was out there scouting and I'd heard a turkey kind of in that area, I had always wanted to find a turkey in the big timber along this ridge. And so when I heard him gobble right there, I was like, he's in there, you know? And so I just kind of didn't study anything else. And I just had it set in my mind that that's where that turkey was going to be, and had no really reason to, you know, no real evidence to know him to be right there. I just wanted him to be there so bad. And then I got overly excited, which I'm prone to do. And then I blew him off the limb trying to get to this spot that I thought he was going to be at. And I walked right under him trying to get to him, you know?
It happens.
But
it's one of those deals where, and that's one thing, like with like the time we hunted with Dave, and you know, the experiences I've had with Bob Walker and you've had with Bob Walker.
Yeah.
Those guys are never caught off guard, doesn't seem like. And they're always like, they always got their guard up, always expecting every step they take that they'll be able to see a turkey.
Yeah.
Or, you know.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that we've gotten better about it, but it just comes with experience. You got to keep it. You got to stay mentally sharp the whole time that you're in that ball game.
Yeah, I still like to you. I remember when me and you hunted with Dave, like the first. It wasn't after our hunt was over. It was after. I think it was after the end of the first day. Me and you were going back to that hotel we were staying at, or that moat. I don't remember that little wherever we were staying, and me and you, you know, with that, we're like, what was the biggest thing you picked up on? And me and you, without having talked about it, we're both like, he never let his guard down at all, you know, like never. And that was impressive to me, just because it made me think. I was like, I wonder how many turkeys I've spooked and not known I've spooked, because I hadn't gone to the measures that he has to make sure that I don't spook them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a bunch.
Yeah, it makes you think. Huh.
No, ain't no doubt. I know I have.
So when you think about, like, let's try this. I know this is probably an open-ended question, but just playing off of what you just said about thinking about last season and carrying it into this season, and I'm really, I mean, I'm not lying. Like I'm having to bridle myself a little bit because I'm so excited about the fact that we can talk about turkeys now that I'm having to like just internally go back. All right, just try to compartmentalize and keep on subject. Otherwise, I'll just be all over the place. But I'll start out with like asking you this question. So looking at the 2020 spring turkey season, for you, what was your biggest takeaway? If you were to look at all of last spring and said, out of all that last spring, the biggest thing I learned was this. What would you think it would be?
Oh, I learned how to find turkeys better.
Okay.
That was what my biggest thing was. Because I mean, last year I did something I've never been able to do in my entire life, and that was go hunting out of state without having to worry about videoing. I
Yeah.
know it sounds weird. Like I've never hunted out of the state of Mississippi and us not be videoing doing something. And I went on that little turkey tour
Yeah.
uh, last spring, and I found myself learning so much just because I had zero pressure on me to kill a turkey, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I found, and we had trouble finding turkeys, so I realized how important one onyx is, and two just like freaking burning over ground and finding sign.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I had like a week or whatever I was gone doing that, and like I don't know how many miles we spent running around up there in South Dakota, but it was a bunch. It was over 300.
Yeah.
And one thing you're limited on time, so you want to make the best out of your time. But one thing I learned was I can't keep up with those turkeys by foot. You got to cover some ground with the truck.
Yeah.
And what we did was riding, and like we'd get out and on the roads and walk the roads a little while, and you'd find turkey sign on the roads. I'm not talking about like a black top or anything. I'm talking about two tracks.
Yeah. Yeah. Like dirt road where you could see turkey sign. Yeah.
Yeah, just access roads. And that was my biggest thing I learned last year about how to find turkeys. I mean, if they're not there, you can't kill them. You got to find them, number one.
Yeah. And I feel like, honestly, it seemed like you saying that to a person that, and I'm not trying to down, like, I guess, like, throw shade on anybody, but to a guy that doesn't, travel a whole bunch. There's some guys that either they don't really want to travel, they just like hunting their own stuff around the home, and that's fine. And then you've got guys that do hunt around home a lot, but they want to travel more. They want to get out there and hunt different states or even different parts of the state they live in. And when you say the biggest thing I learned was how to find turkeys, to someone that hasn't gotten out there that much, like, well, duh, that's obvious. But that's a big part, man. Like, and it's one of the things that if you don't find a turkey, then how you gonna kill him?
Yeah. I mean, you gotta be able to know where some turkeys are to even learn how to hunt them.
Yeah. Well, then, you hear guys talk about, there's certain big pieces of public in states that, will get popular, or big areas that'll get a name. And I've heard stories of guys that go, man, we're going to so-and-so. And they're just saying like a region. And this region that they're talking about has a reputation, but it's huge. And then they get up there and they can't find any turkeys because they really didn't do that much research. And when they got up there, I guess they just, expected for them to get there and turkeys just be abounding all over the place.
Yeah, that's I mean, number one in the book of being a turkey hunter, you got to know where they at and what to look for to find them.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the hunting part of them is, I mean, it's still difficult in some situations to kill a turkey, or a lot of situations, but if you ain't nowhere near where one lives, you sure ain't gonna kill one.
Yeah, you got to at least get in his zip code to be able to play with him some.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing I found. Like that's the biggest thing that, I mean, even when we went to Maine last year and hunted, I'm talking about hunting places we had never been before.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, finding turkeys was the biggest key and the biggest thing I learned last year, where to look and what to look for.
Yeah. Yeah.
And still don't have it figured out by any means, but I
No,
learned a lot.
I don't think anyone ever fully figures it out, but you go into every spring, or at least I do. I know we both do. You try, like, I want to come out of this a better turkey hunter than I was before.
Yeah.
It's it's no secret that's, I mean, for me, it's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, think about it like this. Like, if you can find the turkeys, like, your odds are way better killing one of them if you're going to have more opportunity. If your batting average is going to go up if you're on more turkeys.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's number one, just finding them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it'd be worth almost even diving into a whole episode of doing that, because
And I think we will.
because I mean, think about it. To a guy that doesn't know what we're talking about, you're like, all right, finding them. What does that mean? Like, does that mean I just go and drive a little ways and stop and hoot like an owl and then yelp and crow? If I don't hear anything, I keep going. I mean, like, yeah, to some extent, there's some of that involved, but there's specific things you have to do and look for when it comes to finding turkeys.
And a lot of it comes from, satellite scouting and what, we call it. And that's by looking at aerials and topos and looking for that certain terrain feature that we figured out that, it's a good chance it may be there's turkey habitat there,
Yeah.
Doesn't mean there's turkeys there, but that gives you a starting point.
There's a good chance. So you go in there, and then once you get in there, you kind of know what to look for. But like you said, it's just like everything else. It's repetition and being able to do it. And the more you do it, the more you start figuring it out. But yeah, that to me, like you brought up Maine. Maine was probably my favorite trip of all last spring, because it was just so, even just the fact that it was so different. Like getting thrown into a completely different area and having to figure it out.
Yeah, no, Maine, like, that was a prime example of, like, what you think looks good on a satellite map. Once you lay eyes on it and go to walking in it, it ain't good.
Yeah, it's way different. Yeah.
Like, me and Lake, we were looking at a spot on this place. We had decided to go scout or whatever, and looked at it on the map, picked out 3 or 4 or 5 spots on there. We thought it should be some turkeys around, and crap, the first one we went to looked really, really good on satellite imagery. But when you get there, they had been managing it for grouse or something?
Woodcock.
So they had cut a bunch of timber in there. You couldn't see 5 feet.
It was thick, man. It was thick.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it hadn't been managed for woodcock, it probably would have been good, but it was just so thick in there.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just one of those deals. You pick out spots you think turkeys might be on a map, and those spots are, I mean, they're I'm not going to say they're easy to identify if you're just looking at a map for the first time, but, like benches on a topo map, that's always a good place if it's wide open hardwood ridges to look at, because that's a lot of times those turkeys will be there. Or creeks running through hardwoods, or some type of timber change with a creek bite, and that's always good spots to start looking.
Yeah. Start trying to see, all right, is there sign here, places to go to break day and whatnot. Because that's the other thing too. A lot of times when you talk about finding turkeys, folks go, if they don't hear one gobble, they're like, oh, there's no turkeys here.
Yeah. I don't know how many times I've been turkey hunting and didn't hear one, but got to walking around looking, and you find fresh scratching and tracks, and they're in the area. They may not be within earshot that morning, but the next day they might be.
Yeah.
And if you'd have turned around and went back to the truck just because you didn't hear anything without walking around, you wouldn't have known that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So many different little details and stuff. We ought to do that, especially in this February, this in between time period. We ought to do a full episode on finding turkeys.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I know, I guess I can go, I'm being all over the place. I know that, but, probably, like, personally for me, and I'm kind of going on a more specifics. But one thing that the one thing that I learned big last season, and it's going to sound funny, but I never really had to do it that much until last spring, is hunting in fresh cutovers. You know, you had done it, but you remember last year. I mean, I told you, I said I really don't have that much experience doing this.
Yeah, I mean, the cutover deal is pretty much really similar to hunting pasture turkeys, and that's, I mean, field turkeys. Same thing, really.
It is. They treat it just like a field. It just, in some ways, it just has a couple more variables, because in fresh cutovers like that, especially if you've got slash piles and stuff, you've got more obstacles. Whereas like a lot of times, if it's just a big flat field, you can ease up to a point where you can look and you can see if there's turkeys out there or not. Whereas those fresh cutovers like that, just because you don't see him, that don't mean he ain't out there, because you might not be able to see him because there might be, it might be behind a slash pile, or a lot of times you walk through there, if you ain't careful, he's going to see you and you ain't going to see him, and you'll never know that you spooked him. But that was definitely one of the biggest takeaways I got from last spring, because me and you spent a good bit of time out there on that place, and where we were hunting in a cutover was a common setting you were going to be up against.
Yep.
But
I mean, those turkeys, though, I mean, if you are hunting a cutover or whatever, those logging roads that run through them are key.
Yeah.
The pool roads and all that, because that is going to be the path of least resistance for them, and that's where you either need to be close to an intersection or right on one, and I think, you missed a turkey up there on a road, and I shot one right on the intersection of two roads coming together, and you shot one the same way.
Yep. Well, if you remember, like when I first went out there and I was scouting, I took a picture of the road right there in that intersection where you shot that turkey, and I think I know I sent it to Polk. I think I either sent it to you or told you about it, but I was like, dude, you ought to see the tracks and the strut marks right there in that intersection.
Yeah, and that was the highest point on that cutover, and it was clean. That's where he got up there to show all the ladies his buffness.
Yeah, and that ended up being where he met his maker. But it was, like I said, it was interesting to learn, especially because I guess to set up what we're talking about a little bit, I had hunted this place the spring before. The spring before was the first year I'd hunted it, and that stuff was not cut. So I had hunted that area. I knew there were turkeys there, but you show up there last spring and like, oh, it's clear cut. This is different. And honestly, like I said, the hunting around growing up, I was always hunting. I mean, I hunted some field turkeys, but then most stuff what I hunted was always timbered. So that was a new obstacle for me to try to figure out. And kind of in the same boat, I ain't gonna tell you I got 100% figured out yet, but I got a lot better grasp on it now than I did before, just from tangling with those turkeys most of last spring, or what time I had to hunt in the home state last year was mostly spent there trying to get on them. But it's always fun when you're trying to figure out new stuff and trial and error. It was not fun busting that turkey off the limb, but I think we made up for it sooner or later. Yeah, man. I don't. It's if today is February the 1st, then when do we go to Florida? March 6th.
Yeah, I think it opens on the 6th or 7th, and I think we're leaving a day or two early. I'm not real sure.
So we got just over a month before it is officially go time.
Yep, not long at all. It's today the 1st, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yep, about 30 days, because we're 2 days shorter in this month. So 30 days from now, we'll be rolling.
The couple things to be excited for this spring particularly is y'all heard us mention earlier when we were talking about planting at Kudzu, and we were talking about there, obviously all those years at Cottonmouth, Cottonmouth never had a turkey population strong enough that we felt comfortable hunting. That is not the case at kudzu. I feel like we're going to be spending a lot of time at kudzu hunting these turkeys. So that'll be a whole lot of fun. I don't know when. I don't know. Soon as I get the opportunity, or when I feel like it's worth going out there and trying to hear them gobble in the morning, I think there's going to be a couple of those trips made. But the turkey hunt at kudzu, I anticipate, should be pretty good. Wouldn't you think?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep my mind open. I don't want to be disappointed, so I think we'll have some hunts.
Yeah, I guess I'm just an optimist to some degree, but
that's all you can hope for, is just hoping you have some good hunts, you know.
Well, even to that degree, like put it this way, like kudzu is where our camp is now. When we were at Cottonmouth, we knew for a fact a turkey hunt was not a possibility, you know. Whereas like here, just the fact that it's possible here gets me kind of fired up because it's different. It's a new variable that we didn't have before. Another thing, just on a podcast standpoint, I haven't told you, I don't think I've told you this yet, Jordan. I talked to Dr. Mike Chamberlain last week because last spring, one of the most popular podcasts we put out was that one called Corona Gobblers. Where we talked to Mike Chamberlain about his thoughts and what was going on, because that was the hot topic last spring, you know, talking about how many more people were out in the spring woods compared to springs past because of the pandemic and everything, and what effects it were going to have on the population. And I think, you know, we can all agree that I don't know of anyone else that has a better, you know, more broad knowledge and more in-depth knowledge of the wild turkey than Mike Chamberlain. So he agreed to come back on sometime this month and kind of come over, you know, get him to touch on some of those topics and probably ask some more questions. And but that'll be an interesting one for sure, to kind of come back in a year later and see what he thinks after, because we both of us know how crazy last spring was.
Yeah, I could listen to him talk about turkeys all day. There's a wealth of knowledge, so I'm excited to hear that.
Yeah, it'll be a good one. Plus, we talked about it last time, but I'll get him to do it again just because. Do you know how many people got so hot and bothered last spring when I got him to talk about how you couldn't age a 2-year-old turkey? The man has done research and has scientific data to back up his claims, and says that spur length is in no way an indicator to turkey age. And some people, I might as well have slapped them in the face. They were like, they just were so upset about that information. So just
the way I look at it, it's the same as like scoring a deer on antlers. Like, you could kill a 6-year-old buck and he scores 100, and you kill a 6-year-old buck and scores 180.
Yeah,
they're still the same age. Just one of them's got bigger antlers than the other one. You know.
Yeah.
So, which I could understand it a lot. A lot of people, you know, they took pride in, you know, killing these long spurred turkeys and all that. So, it's definitely cool to kill a long spurred turkey, but
yeah,
just like we've all said, I ain't gonna pass the first mature one up that comes by me.
No, I never will. It was just so.
That's everybody's own opinion, you know.
Yeah, if you want to pass turkeys, you do you, but I'm not going to do it. Roll on, but I'm not gonna. But yeah, he's probably as far as bringing guests on. I asked him. I was like, we have to get him back on just to kind of, you know, because I don't know what all, you know. Obviously, it's been a wild year, and there may not be any more, you know, any groundbreaking news or information that's come back since then. But it would definitely be interesting just to kind of get his take on kind of the state of things after last spring. Because if you turkey hunted last spring, you know how crazy it was. I mean, there was more people turkey hunting last spring than there has been in years. But what we don't know is what the effect of that is. So that's what we're trying to figure out.
Yeah, and it is really cool that a lot of the states do keep data the best they can that people will give them, and
yeah,
it's definitely a tool that's really helped the turkey population over the years for them to keep track of it and know the numbers and all that. I mean, it's an important deal. So I'm 100% for keeping any kind of data that could protect the game we love to chase for years to come.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's absolutely no doubt. But yeah, I guess I mean the bottom line is I mean this episode is kind of the kickoff to turkey episodes and things that are to come. So obviously the rest of this month we'll spend a lot of time focusing on guests such as Mike Chamberlain is going to come in. We're also going to have a lot of y'all, I'm sure, y'all have heard of. If y'all haven't heard of the Spring Legion guys, you may have heard them from me and heard me and Jordan mention them as well. They're going to come on and talk some turkey either sometime this month or early March before we go to Florida. And then we'll just focus on a lot of preparation stuff. Like we'll do an episode on finding turkeys and all that good stuff. But it's for me, this is the most exciting time of the year. Like Jordan said, just knowing that we're with every single day, the reality of getting to go out in the spring woods and chase a gobbling turkey is just becoming ever more real. And I love that. So I think we're going to wrap this episode up. Jordan, I'm sorry we couldn't do it the way we normally do it. We were supposed to do it in the office today, and then, at this point, everyone knows how COVID does, but we made it work.
And word on the street is we may see Penn Hody here for long too.
I wasn't gonna. I didn't know if you wanted to mention that yet or not.
Goodbye.
The what?
I said it's a teaser. Goodbye.
Oh yeah, like I said, I didn't know if he's going to mention that yet or not, but yeah. Penn Hody. So, if here's the other thing before we sign off. I know everyone seems to be more vocal and interactive when turkey comes along. So, if you have questions, if you have topics, anything, the Primos Hunting Instagram page. You can hit Jordan up on Instagram. You can hit me up on Instagram. But don't hesitate. If you got something, send it to us. If it's a question, we'll answer it. Don't hold back on those. And, we'll see y'all back here next Monday for the next episode of the Speak the Language podcast. And as always, thank y'all for listening.